Hey guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Today we've got an early impression video on a zoologist, and if you've been kind of following my channel, you know this is a house you're going to be hearing more and more about on the channel because I recently got the Discovery sample set, which is kind of a cool deal. You get 5 10 ml Discovery atomizers. They come like this. So there's the 5 that I picked. And I wore Hyrax the other day, and I enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy it enough to want to go out and run and buy a full bottle, but it's a brand that I like. And when I bought this, they sent me a couple of these. They sent me Rhinoceros, which you will hear about very soon, and they sent me Squid, I think. I think it was Squid. And Squid is probably something I'll wear more when it's warm again. So that's a fragrance you'll probably hear spring, summer of 2022. I want to do an early impression on. But this is a fragrance that I've wanted to smell for a long time. And because of the early impression or sample set videos that my brother Rich Mitch from across the pond did a couple months back, I kind of had an idea of what to expect. And it's called Civet. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that fly guy. Is that an ascot that he's wearing? The fact that I even know it's an ascot is pretty impressive. So, Civet, I'll read you the little blurb on it and we'll kind of talk about it because this is exactly what I expected from what was being described by people. And I had a feeling I would like it. And I do like it. So it's a spicy resinous scent that came out in 2016. And here's the blurb. As the sun sinks over the dense tropical forest, civets emerge warily from the thickets. Under a carpet of narcotic flower blossoms, a smattering of coffee berries peppers the ground. The moist air is heavy with mossy aromas that penetrates every crevice, but the musky scent of the civet dominates. There are marked territories daring one to enter at one's own risk. Zoologist Civet pays homage to the age-old ingredient civet, as well as chypre, with perfumes of bygone days, a bewildering, sophisticated scent with the promise of a sultry nighttime rendezvous. Okay, so top notes: bergamot, black pepper, orange spices and tarragon, heart of carnation, frangipani, heliotrope, tuberose, ylang ylang, base of civet, coffee, incense, leather, labdanum, oak moss, vanilla, and vetiver. Okay, so let's talk about civet because, well, the other thing I should mention before we get into the scent is the perfumer is a woman named Shelley Waddington. And this was actually one of the finalists in the 2017 Art and Olfactory Awards, as are many zoologist fragrances, because they are very artistic, okay? And they're not just following trends. They're not just trying to sell bottles. They're really trying to do something different, and I really respect that. So, Civet. And Shelley Waddington, the perfumer, by the way, I should mention that if you are in our little circle of perfume friends, you know, if you know Thomas, if you know Eugene, if you know Rich Mitch, if you follow Galen of the Etherealist, Galen actually had a chance to sit down with the woman who did Civet, Shelley Waddington, and he did an interview with her on his channel. And I would go recommend checking it out. She's a very interesting lady, and what she created here is pretty spectacular for me personally, and I'll tell you why. I mean, first of all, I should say this, and it's somewhere in my notes, so I'll probably get mixed up and say it again, but when I was wearing this today, I was reminded of something, and you know what it reminded me of? So I was raised Catholic, okay, and in the Catholic Church, there's a saying that once you hit the age of understanding, you're held responsible for your own actions, okay? You ever heard that saying? Once you hit the age of understanding, and everyone's age of understanding is different. That's the genius part of it, and only God knows, right? That's how the Catholic Church spins it. Anyways, long story short is when I wore this today, I was like, you know, ever since I hit the age of understanding of perfume, I love chypres. I just absolutely love them every time. There's nothing better than a chypre for me. And it wasn't like, oh, I had to grow into it. No, it was instant. It was an instant love with me. As soon as I even understood what a fougere and a chypre was, I love chypres, okay? That's just how I've been. I can't change that. It was just instant. And, you know, I think it's something with this mossy, mysterious, and the way that the fragrance develops from top, bergamot top. So the chypre construction, basically, in a nutshell, is the main notes are bergamot top with labdanum, and usually some sort of resins and oak moss. Okay, that's the construction. You could have fruity chypres, you could have floral chypres, you could have all different kinds of chypres. This is basically what I would consider a floral chypre. Okay, now that being said, there's different ways that the notes can come to the forefront. Okay. And I like my chypre to be very dirty. I like it to be animalic and challenging and dirty. And there is civet in the base. And in fact, if you go back through history, like some of my all-time favorite chypre fragrances. So you could go all the way back to 1919 with Mitsuko. Yes, there is something dirty with this. This is a fruity chypre because they use peach. Okay, peach is the main note, and also peach is one of the big notes in plum. Is the big note here. So you have peach and you have plum, but you have this fruity take with the beautiful florals, with the oak mossy base and all that good stuff. This is Roches Femme, by the way, from the 40s. I just absolutely love the DNA. Okay, there are leather chypres. You can do something like denim, one of the best value, original denim is one of the best value for money fragrances. Nowadays, you would have to pay tons of money to get a proper leather chypre like this. You could also buy Azure. Mine says pure fragrance spray on the bottom. And, you know, but I heard there's Azure, just try to get an older bottle. I did a video on it. You can find it, I believe. But Civet and the sheep construction, if you will, it's a very vital component because usually there's this animalic undertone to a chypre, okay? And yes, it is here, but let me take you through the journey first, and then we'll talk about it. And I think the reason that this didn't do so well is everyone expected that you were just going to get hit with this synthetic civet from the beginning. You know, they expected, I don't know, like Koros without any of the rest of the Koros, just civet, you know, and it doesn't work that way. That's not how perfumery works. So, what you get when you first spray this is you're basically hit with this vintage chypre of old, okay? Old times. Imagine the chypres from the last 100 years ago, all the way from Francois Coty, all the way to what they're putting out now. Even stuff like, you know, chypre Palaton, something like that. You know, this spicy, resinous take on a chypre. And it's going to be a little bit vintage when you first spray. And you're going to get this peppery, spicy feeling with the opening. So you will get the bergamot. Absolutely, you'll get the bergamot. And one of the most amazing notes of an opening for me in a chypre is tarragon. I absolutely love tarragon. I'm in love with tarragon in the opening. If I ever have a fragrance, you can bet your bottom dollar it will have tarragon in the opening. One of my favorite chypres of all time is this little bad boy, and I've talked about it before. You know what it is. It's Diaghilev. Diaghilev is one of the absolute best chypres, and this has an amazing tarragon note in it. Oh, just smelling it from the atomizer is like... So tarragon can sometimes give off this anisic-like quality, this green Artemisia anisic-like quality. And you get a little bit of that in civet. In civet the fragrance, not civet the ingredient, but civet the fragrance. And what ends up happening, and tarragon, by the way, is amazing in cooking as well. If you've ever filleted a fish, right? You fillet a fish, you put the piece of tarragon in the middle, and you cook the fish with the tarragon inside of it. It's perfect. And so you'll pick up the spices in the opening, okay? And it's going to feel like you're smelling like allspice, and you're smelling some nutmeg with that anisic green tarragon with the bergamot, lemon, and orange opening. So that peppery, spicy bergamot, lemon, and orange opening. And then what ends up transitioning, and it's probably the first 10 to 15 minutes, is you'll begin to smell this slight berry, almost like a coffee vibe will come to your nose very early. Even though coffee is in the base, I got it very early, especially the first time I wore the fragrance. Early, I got the coffee. And what's interesting is there is a connection to civets and coffee. You can look it up, but there's actually there's a connection between civet, the animal, and coffee. And so I think that's why that coffee note is here, because they're actually tying it all together. And so you get this berry coffee-like vibe in the opening, but by the time you hit 15 minutes, that opening has been washed away, and the florals are really starting to kind of muscle their way into the fragrance, okay? The florals are really starting to crowd everything else out. And that's the reason why I think this fragrance gets a bad rap, because people say that this fragrance smells like their grandmother's perfumes, that it smells like, you know, something that an 80-year-old woman would wear to church, and it's that floral heart. But to be fair, if you're a fragrance lover, and if you love chypre as a genre, okay, I think you would really like this. I really think you would like this. And however, that big floral heart, it's massive. I mean, it's really prominent. And for a while, you're going to get lots of florals, and that's what you're going to get. I mean, starting from 15 minutes on, it is the floral show for a little while. And that's okay, because the florals in this are very well done. And they really kind of they're the star of the show. That's just how it is. 15 minutes in, they're the star of the show. You'll get spicy, masculine carnation, okay? Slightly green, but beautiful spicy carnation. And the spices in the opening blend beautifully with the spicy carnation. You will get the note that makes this fragrance very unique to me is many of these chypres that I'm talking about, Diaghilev, Chypre Palatine. I didn't even get a chance to mention Teatro alla Scala. One of the best uses of civet in a chypre format is Teatro alla Scala. Absolutely stunning. This is the eau de parfum, but the eau de toilette is equally nice. I might even prefer the eau de toilette. And, you know, there's this honey element that this has, this 80s resinous honey element that this is missing. And I think I prefer Teatro alla Scala, although this civet is very good. But the ingredient that is in civet that's missing from all of these other chypres that I talked about today, the one that really sets it off and makes it unique to me is frangipani. Frangipani is this tropical flower, or it smells tropical, I should say. Frangipani gives off this this fruity berry like smell, and it always gives me this tropical feel. I mean, it just does. It's like coconuts and pineapples, okay? So think coconuts and pineapples with flowers. You know, whenever you see like a wreath of flowers that they'll put around your neck at a luau or something in Hawaii, many times it's frangipanis, okay? And it gives that tropical feel. This floral wreath of tropical flowers, coconut, pineapple. that kind of feel, that kind of fruity vibe. And I think in the opening when I said there's this berry-like coffee smell, I think some of the coffee from the base really bleeds up faster than the other base notes. And so while the fragrance pyramid is breaking down, the coffee from the base is bleeding up faster. And I think it really kind of comes together, in my opinion. And you kind of will get a little bit of that coffee feel early on. But it's that coconut, pineapple, almost plummy. You know, it can have frangipani can have this fruity, plummy vibe as well. And again, great chypres from the past use plum, use fruits, use that feel. So even though there's that's one of the things that's really missing from this scent is, you know, the great chypres of the past. Mitsuko used peach. Roche's Femme used plum. You know, there was a fruity aspect to many of the great chypres of the past. It's missing here, but what it has is frangipani. And frangipani is the X factor of this scent. I know Bortnikov does an amazing frangipani note. Dmitry Bortnikov does. It's a note you just don't see. It's not in the regular French bouquet. The regular French bouquet is going to be the jasmine, the rose, the ylang-ylang, you know, something like that is usually what you'll see. May rose, jasmine from grass, violet, that kind of thing. Not frangipani, okay? So frangipani adds this X factor. And then you have heliotrope, which heliotrope basically gives this, heliotrope gives this spongy vibe to the fragrance. And you have the heart of the fragrance, once the florals really come in, turns very creamy, all right? So it's a very creamy floral experience. Extremely creamy. I think that's probably the best word. So heliotrope makes it a little bit spongy. Hyacinth, by the way, is a big flower. That's a big flower. I mean, hyacinth can overtake everything if you're not careful. So the hyacinth is very intelligently dosed. The linden blossom is very bright. You get this bright linden blossom note. And I mentioned the soft, spongy purple heliotrope. And there's this green, earthy, mysterious tuberose note as well. Green and earthy is the way I would describe the tuberose note in here. And the ylang-ylang is probably the second most prominent flower in here. And the ylang-ylang gives off this vanilla or banana custard vibe, okay? So imagine you have this vanilla, banana custardy. There's this very custardy. Remember, I used the word creamy. Creamy, custardy vibe to the florals in the heart. Okay. And so, you know, that is kind of the, that's the scent breakdown until you get to the base. Now, the base is very interesting in this fragrance, and what ends up happening is once you get to the base, which is going to happen about 3 to 4 hours in, you'll start to really notice some of those base notes. You'll notice the oak moss. You will notice the civet. It is noticeable, but it's not noticeable until you hit the late dry down. 4, 5, maybe even 6 hours into this scent. This is a 8-hour dry down. And I can get the civet. I also get some leather, okay? There's this Russian leather note in the base of this that is not really talked about much. It's also not very prominent, but it is there. And it mixes with that oak moss, that green oak moss to complete the chypre trifecta, you know, the triangle, if you will. With vetiver. And vetiver is the other green note that helps support the oak moss because they can't use very much oak moss nowadays. Making a modern chypre is very hard. In fact, there is a Roja Dove fragrance that this is compared to, and it's called Chypre Extraordinaire. I've got a Discovery Atomizer of Chypre Extraordinaire, and I will do a video on this, but this is not my favorite because this does a lot of what Civet does, okay? Chypre Extraordinaire does a lot of what Civet does in much of the same way. Big floral heart, except Roja included more aldehydes in the opening and more plum. He also included a little bit of cumin in the base with iris, okay? The iris is beautiful in here, to be fair. There is civet in the base because a proper old school chypre should probably have some civet. There is leather in the base. He's also added some stuff like styrax and patchouli. Many chypres have patchouli. There's no patchouli in Civet, interestingly enough. So it's kind of a different take. There's musk and there's resins and there's even a little bit of vanilla. And I think the vanilla makes it a little bit more likable, if you will, a little easier to wear. It's not just an out-and-out old school 1940s, chypre your grandmother wore, right? It's a little different. And so that's the scent, basically. The base is kind of resinous. There's lots of balsams. It feels like the resins are kind of smeared on a bed of Russian leather, but the Russian leather, interestingly enough, is not very smoky. Much Russian leather that you'll smell is blended with birch. All right, so you get birch tar and this Russian leather accord. Birch and leather create the Russian leather accord. I don't get very much smoke, and there is a frankincense note, but I don't get very much of it in the dry down either. So that's the interesting part of the journey. You will get a little coffee, you'll get a little civet, but just a little. And I think that's why this fragrance maybe wasn't the biggest commercial hit, just because it's not exactly what people expect when you smell a fragrance called Civet. Now, as a perfume lover and as a chypre lover, if you're a lover of sheeps, you're going to absolutely love this, okay? If you are a lover of chypres, you're going to love Civet because it's right up your alley. It is exactly what you would expect from a big, bold, old school, vintage chypre, okay? And so I think that's where the disconnect happens, though, is many, and this is why I would make the case that it's so important to smell as much as you can, okay? Smell as much of the fragrance universe as you're able to. You don't have to buy all of it, but it would be great to be able to smell all of it, because if you're new to the fragrance game, all right, and you smell this and you have no concept of these old masterpieces is what they are. I mean, Mitsuko is probably technically one of the best chypre fragrances of all time. And, if you just go if you just run head first and buy every niche scent that you can, right, and you know nothing of the vintage world, you're going to smell this and you're not going to be able to kind of put the puzzle pieces together. You may initially love chypres in the same way I do. You may hate them. There are some people that do not like chypre fragrances. But many people don't know. They may know they may not like something, or they may know they like something, but maybe they don't really understand why. You know what I mean? And so a little bit of history, a little bit of fragrance knowledge from the past can help with expectations and what you're smelling. And, if you understood the old school chypres from the 80s, the 70s, the 40s, the turn of the century, all that stuff, it would really, I think, help understand why this fragrance is called Civet. You're not going to get just a hit of synthetic Civet in your face. It's not what it is. There's an entire fragrance around it. Is it a good value for money? Yes, I think it is a good value for money, because Roja's Chypre Extraordinaire sells for $2,000 for 100 ml. 100 ml of Civet's like $185 or something. Great value for money. However, would I buy a bottle of this? That's the tough part. Because when I wear some of these, when I wear, Chypre Palatine or when I wear Rochas Femme or Mitsuko or Diaghilev or Teatro alla Scala, I am overjoyed to wear it. It's like a privilege, you know, to get to wear those type of fragrances. And they never let me down, ever. There's never a time where I've worn Teatro alla Scala, chypre Palatine, Diaghilev, Rochas Femme, Mitsuko, where I've said, damn, I wish I didn't wear this today. I wish I wore something else. Never. I love it. I absolutely love every wearing of it is a pleasure. They're that type of fragrance for me. It's that genre. It's like, you know, every person I feel like has their genre that they prefer. Some people prefer fougere. Some people prefer oriental. I do like oriental, and I do like fougere. But chypre, there's something... there is something just special about it that connects with me. Maybe it's the way the notes kind of break down. Maybe it's the construction, the mysteriousness with the mosses in the base. I don't know what it is. But whatever it is, chypre is it's the one that I most associate with, okay? And so that being said, I like this from the get-go. Do I like it enough to buy a bottle? That's the question. Probably not. Probably not. It's kind of going to be one of those where I can say, I got a chance to sniff it. I'm glad I got a chance to sniff it. Thank you for sending this to me, Zoologist. You know, as free samples when I bought the Discovery set. But I don't think I would buy a full bottle of this. Their bottles are beautiful, though. They've got their own little... You can see the shape of the bottle. You know, it's a unique design. They've got the animal on the front. They've got the zoologist on the top. It's a nice little get-up. They've got amazing sprayers. I'm a fan. I'm a fan of the bottles. I just don't know if I would actually spend the money to buy a bottle of Civet. I also don't know if I would spend the money to buy a bottle of Hyrax yet. So, that's kind of where we're at. Glad to get to sniff it. I'd love to hear what you guys think of Civet. If you agree with my breakdown, you know, it's an old school chypre. It's what it is. You have to understand what you're getting into and smelling, and you have to understand the category and how it fits into the past. And I think it'll make a lot more sense to you if you do. But I just don't think it's full bottle worthy. Not when I've got the all-time greats, you know. You can't go head to head with the all-time greats and not bring something extraordinary to the table. You know, and while I think Civet's a very good fragrance, I do not think it's extraordinary. I think this is extraordinary. You know, I think Diaghilev is extraordinary. So I'd rather just wear these. That's kind of where I'm at in my little journey here. But I always love exploring. I love checking out new things. This has been a joy. I'm glad I got a chance to sniff it. I can talk intelligently about it now. It is good. I have yet to smell a zoologist perfume that I do not think is good. Let's put it that way. All of them are good. All of them are very well made. This is the only one that I deemed full bottle worthy so far. This is a crazy fragrance, by the way. I'll do a full review of Moth one day. It's nuts, but yes, it's an interesting house. I still have another early impression I plan on doing, Rhinoceros. I'll do that one very soon, and then we're still gonna dive into I'll do full reviews of these before I use up all the juice. So, thanks for watching, everybody. Appreciate it. Short video today, only 28 minutes. And I'd love to hear your comments about the house, Zoologist, about Civet in particular, or tell me what your favorite zoologists are. So we still have a bunch to look forward to. Like I said, we still have Rhinoceros, Bee, Camel, Hyrax, Sacred Scarab, and Tyrannosaurus Rex. So a lot more content on this house to come. So appreciate it, guys. Thanks for watching. Cheers, and I'll see you again tomorrow with another video. Bye now.